my water.
Oh, did you went? Oh, you said water.
My water.
Oh! Do it again.
My bottle of water. Bottle of water. Bottle of water.
Bottle of water.
Bottle of water.
No, it's. I've realised.
Cheerio, old chap. Would you perhaps like a drink out of my bottle of water?
No,
I could do water, but I can't do the rest of it.
Oh my god, stop! That's so funny. No, because like I've realised when I say like, when I talk, like talk.
Yeah, the vowel
hello,
sounds are different.
Oh my gosh! Like, oh, why do I do that?
I found for me the reason
gosh.
why I sound American is the TD thing.
Yeah.
How I pronounce those consonants. Because I feel like, I don't know, like it's like water, not water.
Yes. Water.
So I
water.
It's when you make a T sound like a D. So
Yeah.
if I enunciate more, it goes away a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Can we add this into the beginning of the podcast? And it
Okay.
goes. Doo-doo-doo-doo. Hello, folks, and welcome back to Cine-Mess, Embracing Bad Cinema. I'm India.
And I'm Jess.
And today we're going to be talking about The Labyrinth and also puppetry.
Mm-hmm. And don't worry, we're not saying instantly that The Labyrinth is a bad movie.
Yes.
We're just discussing it because some people have said that in the past.
Oh, yeah, a lot of people tell me they hate The Labyrinth because it's the one with puppets and David Bowie in it. Well,
yeah.
That's why I love it, because it's got puppets and David Bowie in it. So, first of all, should we get into my news segment?
Industry news, screen
Yeah.
news.
So, well, the Oscars.
Mm-hmm. As of recording this, it's the Wednesday just after the Oscars.
Yeah. And did you stay up and watch it, Jess?
I watched a bit of it, and then I went to bed, and I watched clips of it the next morning.
Okay. I watched it when we were in the hotel in London.
Mm-hmm.
I left the June screening, literally ran back, watched the Oscars, and I think I had about 1 hour's worth of sleep for that whole trip. So that weren't good. But yeah, I did watch the Oscars. I think I fell asleep after the I'm Just Ken performance. I fell asleep because of the performance. No.
Was it that bad in your opinion? Or were you just satisfied and you're like, nothing else is going to hit the same?
I like it. It was okay. I love the Nishuti Gatwa and the other one of the Hemsworth one. Is it
Liam Hemsworth?
Liam Hemsworth? Yeah, him. Yeah, I love how they were there. They were just dancing in the background. I love that. That's so cool. But, you know, it just weren't... I'm not a Barbie fan.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of people like Barbie.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'll keep my opinions to myself on that one, but...
See, I'm not a hater of Barbie.
Unlike me.
I'm not a fan either. I enjoyed watching it, but
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's the greatest
I
film
love
of
the
all
songs.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do find it kind of funny that they chose a way to highlight Barbie, a movie that's about feminism. They chose a male lead to perform.
It would have been so bad also if I'm Just Ken won instead of What Was I Made For?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's great. I think Ryan Gosling absolutely kills it. You can see the theater kid in him coming back. He clearly loved the role. I love the performance. I'm not dissing it in any way, guys. But I just think it's kind of funny. I saw someone bring it up, and I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, I remember saying when me and my friend Natalie, when we were sat watching the Oscars, and she was like, oh, they're getting him to perform I'm Just Ken. That just defeats the whole point of the film, getting a guy. But yeah, anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, like, what did you think about Oppenheimer winning? How many awards did it win? How many Oscars?
It
won
swept.
3, 4?
Well, it won Best Actor, Best Picture.
Yeah, definitely Best Picture. Who didn't think it weren't going to win Best Picture?
Best Director, Nolan got another one.
Yes.
Best Supporting Actor for RDJ.
No, wasn't it Nolan's first?
Was it?
It was Nolan's first, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure it was Nolan's first Oscar.
I just mean like as like a director, like big name director. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
RDJ's Supporting Actor, Best Original Score.
Oh,
I mean, the score was good.
great.
I haven't seen the film, but I have listened to the score, bits of it, and it does sound amazing. What else did it get? Best cinematography, best film editing.
Oh, wow, okay, so it got far more than 3.
Yeah, it got quite a few. I think Poor Things is the next up for...
Well, before the I'm Just Ken performance, they were both on 3 Oscars. They're both tied. I love Poor Things. It's just come on to Disney Plus, actually. I should give it a rewatch. But yeah, no, were you surprised by the Oscars?
No, I think with the awards leading up, like the BAFTAs and whatnot, there was a very clear sign that Oppenheimer was going to sweep. I think Poor Things was the surprise beyond costuming and design. I felt like it was going to get that. Or perhaps Barbie for costuming. I mean, the set design for Barbie was incredible.
It was, but Poor Things
design
was amazing as well.
An amazing one as well. I think costuming too is a really interesting new world to sort of explore, very steampunk vibes in a way.
Yeah, Poor Things was definitely the more experimental, unusual, quirky in a way. Well, I hate that word, but it was the more interesting film out of Oppenheimer, Barbie.
Yeah, I feel like also it has an air of legitimacy to it, where it's an art film compared to Barbie, which is more. Does that make sense? Like,
no,
especially
it does,
when you look at the crew and whatnot behind it. Again, I think the Barbie team did an excellent job with set design, building it. I've seen the behind the scenes pictures. It looks amazing, like what they've managed to do. But I think what was surprising about Poor Things was it has also gotten a lot of awards. Not to say that I don't think they should have won those awards. They have some incredible actors and whatnot. But I feel like when I read some of the press afterwards, people were a bit surprised that Poor Things got so much. I think because there's so many other strong contenders this year. It was really a strong year.
Well, I mean, I just want to say that The Creator is an amazing film. Now, I didn't think that before, but The Creator is amazing, and I think that The Creator should have deserved an Oscar. Because they didn't get one.
Do you have a thing you think it should have gotten an Oscar for?
Oh, it should have gotten... there was a category for Best CGI, wasn't there? It was like special effects.
Best visual effects.
Visual effects.
And that went to Godzilla -1, which
Creator was nominated in that, but it should have got it.
Godzilla -1, I loved it. I love that their team brought a mini Godzilla with them. Loved
so
that. I just love what Yamazaki and his team were able to do.
Yeah.
Great film.
Okay, well, I think So, Oscars, we weren't really surprised, were we?
Yeah, well, I guess you said, like, creator is one, but do you think there's
Other than that.
Not an Oscar snub, but a film you wish would have won more or would have been nominated?
Right, I would say it's a documentary, and it's, hang on. It's 20 Days in Mariupol? I think is it 30 days or 20 days?
20 Days in Mariupol won Best Documentary Feature.
Yeah, it did, but I feel like it should have been nominated. I mean, it's a documentary. It's competing with a lot of other great documentaries on there, and Wes Anderson, his short film won. Do you know that was Wes Anderson's first Oscar?
Really?
Yeah, his short film he made won. It won Best Short Film. But I think maybe 20 Days, or was it 20, 30? 20, yeah. Oh, I need to remember that. 20 Days in Mariupol, definitely should have. It should get more recognition. I think it's a great documentary.
Now that it's won Best Documentary Feature, it will get hopefully more recognition.
Yeah,
I think on my end, I was so happy that Davine Joy Randolph won Best Supporting Actress for her work in Holdovers. I think it was such a great performance.
I don't think people were surprised. People were surprised at that.
You think they were surprised?
I think they were surprised at that. Yeah, because I weren't expecting her to win.
Yeah, why people were surprised that she won in the case that I feel like Holdovers didn't really get put through. Holdovers itself as a film wasn't really seen as a strong contender this year. And I don't think that's a weakness of the film itself. I think it was just such a strong year for narrative films.
I also think it depends on... It released quite recently, didn't it?
Yeah, it released just before the holiday season in the winter. I think it's such a sweet film. It really wins you over. And I was so excited to see Davine Joy Randolph, win an award for her performance, because I think she just encapsulated so much emotion without saying it through dialogue.
I haven't actually seen the film, so...
all right, I won't say more.
Yeah, don't
so
spoil
you don't
it
get spoiled, but I think she does such a great job. and she wins you over. You really love her and her character.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the Oscars. As always, if you guys don't agree with us, please don't fight us. We aren't experts by any means. We're just talking about what we thought about the Oscars.
Yeah. So I think we definitely need to get on to the topic of today's podcast, which is The Labyrinth. So 1986 Labyrinth, directed by Jim Henson. It's amazing. It's one of my favourite films. I actually have a little story. When I was young, when I was a child and I couldn't sleep at night, I would wake my parents up and get them to put on The Labyrinth. And I'd be watching The Labyrinth for like 3 a.m. every night. It was that or The Dark Crystal, which are both... The Dark Crystal, if anyone doesn't know, is it's another Bowie... no, not Bowie. It's another Jim Henson film. It came out in 1982, 4 years before The Labyrinth. But yeah, no, it is a great film. Very different, but it does implement the use of puppets. So it's really good.
All right. So, well, I guess, do you want to intro what the film The Labyrinth is?
Okay.
People haven't seen it.
Okay. If you have not seen The Labyrinth, which is a crime, if you haven't seen it, it's about Sarah. She's just a young girl. I think she's 15 in the film. 16. Yeah. Played by Jennifer Connelly. I can never say her name. Connelly, that last name. Names aren't my forte, guys. I can't pronounce them. And she basically it's all about her transitioning into womanhood, really.
Yeah.
Going from a teenager to becoming a young woman, an adult having responsibility. And we first see her when she's in the park and she's reading through the book. Now, the book that she's memorizing is about the Labyrinth. It's about the place that she is then transported to by Bowie's amazing character. And she goes home. Her parents are like, her father and stepmother are like, you've got to look after Toby the baby. We're going out again. We kind of get the impression they're always out. She's always babysitting. She hates it. She kind of wants a life of her own. Kind of wants a bit of freedom. You understand? She wants freedom, but she's in between that transition.
You can tell by there's a way that she plays in the park where she's very much still connected to childhood and her imaginations and a whimsy, but also there's now these adult responsibilities being given to her, and you can see in her room that transition happening between all her stuffed animals to now some makeup.
I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I love is when we're first, when she comes into the house, she runs upstairs and she's like, I don't want to look after the baby, I don't want to have a look, I've got my own thing to do, blah, blah, blah. And she sits at her dressing table. And we can, as soon as we enter her room, we see all these, the puppets, the creatures we're going to see later in the Labyrinth. And I love it. And obviously we see the little music box. But if you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen it while you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of little Easter eggs in there. And essentially, as this sort of opening goes on, she's left with Toby to babysit for the night. He's screaming, crying. She gets really upset. He's not a newborn. He's like a young baby. He's near
1. No, he's 1. He's
not even 1.
Not 1? No, that's true actually. But I mean, I wouldn't know. But
but essentially, she starts to use some of the book to be like, oh, I wish that the Goblin King from this book would really come and take you away.
Oh, yeah. And she goes, Goblin King, come take this baby away. Yeah.
We see the first reveal of the goblins themselves.
Oh, yeah.
And Jim Henson's puppets.
Yeah, Jim Henson's Creature Workshop, which is his own, Brian and Wendy Froud, who are the creative team sort of behind the film. Brian Froud did the sketches and the character design along with Wendy Froud, and then they built the puppets. And did you know their son, Toby Froud? Toby Froud? I think I've got that correct. Oh no, I might have got my facts wrong. But their son plays the young boy.
Oh, that's cute.
In the film. So yeah.
Well, I guess also, where would people know Jim Henson from?
He did Neverending Story. I'm going through all the 80s classics here. Neverending Story, Dark Crystal, The Labyrinth. People would know Jim Henson from Jim Henson's A Storyteller.
Well, also, what is he most famous for?
I don't actually know. I know I'm a big Jim Henson fan, but I don't actually know.
The Muppets.
Oh, shit. Yes. Why didn't I mention the Muppets?
The Muppets.
Of course he did the Muppets. Oh,
I was going to lead it up to make you sound smart.
Oh, thank you, Jess. You really failed at that, haven't you?
Okay,
no, that's
I feel like if you're like me and you're not very well versed in the world of puppetry and film.
Well, I don't look like I know much now. Thank you for that.
Okay, well, maybe you only know his indie works.
Yeah. And like his really underground stuff, like, the Labyrinth, Dark Crystal.
Yeah, so you probably know him from the Muppets, Miss Piggy, Kermit. He's done, all sorts of things with different puppets. And this was one of his last films, wasn't it? That he personally worked on?
Yeah, before he died because he wouldn't take medication. But we'll skip over that.
Okay. Well, anyway, so essentially we see the first reveal of these puppets. We'll get into that in a bit later, but then the Goblin King does come and take the baby away. She meets the Goblin King, who is played by none other than
David Bowie.
Impeccable cast. And she's transported to the land of the Goblin King in the underground, where she has to fight through all sorts of trials, make her way to the center of the city, at the center of the Labyrinth, to take her brother back from the Goblin King. Yeah. So that's a little plot overview. We'll get into it more in detail as we work our way through it, but that's just a little overview if you haven't watched the film before. But we do absolutely, well, actually, maybe we won't after talking about it, but I personally recommend seeing it. I think it's...
Who doesn't want to see David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly, and a bunch of puppets with a baby jumping
singing
around.
and dancing.
Yeah. The Labyrinth, it was a box office flop because it came out in the same year that Alien came out. And I think, look, this is how I see the general public seeing this film in 86. Sort of, they get a trailer and all they know is it's David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly.
Which I don't think she was really known.
No, she weren't. David Bowie was still... He was known. Obviously, he was known. But yeah, David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly, a bunch of puppets singing and dancing, trying to turn a baby into a goblin. Mm-hmm. That would pull me straight into the film. I'd be so enticed with that film. But then also I'm very weird. So I think other people probably thought, that's a bit odd. Let's go and watch Alien instead. So maybe that was why it was a box office flop. But with a budget of 25 million, which is kind of a lot back in the day, I think. But is that a lot in terms of budget for films of that era? I'm not sure. Because I did do some research, but I couldn't really... I found out that actually it was not a lot at the time, but it's not a lot now either.
I think considering the scale of the production, just the sheer amount of set design. It's almost entirely practical effects.
It is. It's all practical.
Except for the CGI owl and then some other scenes.
Well, let's go on to the CGI owl, because that was the first bit of CGI.
Really?
Yeah. And it holds up to today. Yeah, you can still tell it's old. But yeah, it is one of the first bits of CGI. It's amazing. Every time I watch the film, I love the opening. And with David Bowie's song at the beginning. I mean, for people who haven't seen The Labyrinth,
it's opened by him serenading us with a song we hear again later in the film. What is it, like, you remind me of the Babe, or is it a different one at the beginning?
No. So
it's the Underground.
No, it's Underground's the beginning, the first song. And then Magic Dance happens later. Yeah. But before that, we do get Goblin Battle kind of sound. Yeah. It's similar to the song The Goblin Battle, and then we get the Fireys after that. But anyway, the music is just amazing. The score is, for a film of that budget, for a film at that time, I think that having David Bowie, not just David Bowie, Trevor Jones, working on the project was really...
He was a big get. And apparently he signed on because he got a certain amount of input on the character. Is that correct?
Yeah, he did, yeah. And I also, the staircase sequence? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I call it the Escher-inspired staircase sequence because it is inspired by the artist Escher. But I love how the film really does draw upon just draws upon artworks. So artworks by Escher, of course, for the staircase sequence. Don't know if you've seen any Escher artwork, but I recommend you look at it. It's amazing. I studied it last year. And Dali, when we're first sort of taken into the labyrinth, we see the clock on these old rickety trees, and you've got the sunset, orange skies. I love it. Such a Dali-esque sort of feel to the film, especially with the clock. If the clock was melting, that would just be, that'd be amazing. But yeah, I love how it really does draw upon, because I hadn't spotted that before until when I was watching it last night. I do love how the film really does bring in like these artistic sort of, not artistic elements, but well, it does. But
they clearly had a lot of fun creating the world. And just, I guess, to give some context, right? We've both rewatched the film in order to talk about it today, and you said at the beginning of the show that you watched it a lot as a child. Can you remember the first time you watched Labyrinth?
I'm not sure. I can't remember. I've always, the earliest memories I have as a child are me watching The Labyrinth. So yeah, I've always loved watching The Labyrinth. It's a film I watch now. It's my comfort film. I love that film. And a lot of people think it's become a cult classic now.
Yeah, it's interesting because
I think it has.
I know you've rewatched a lot. I know there's a huge fandom around this film as well.
Yeah, the Reddit page, the Labyrinth Reddit page brings me so much joy.
I don't remember when I first watched it. I think I might have been 13 or so. I definitely watched it not when I was a kid. I think I would have been terrified if I was like really young, but I think I probably watched it when I was like maybe 12, 13. And I will say, upon rewatch, I did not remember a lot of some scenes in it.
Well, before you get into this, Jess, my next note on my doc, on our shared doc, says, it says, speak about David Bowie's balls. His crystal balls, Jess, before you, get your mind out the gutter. But, because I've got a little fact about that is my favourite.
The crystal balls
the crystal balls. Oh, well.
If you've seen the film, you know what we're talking
about. Yeah, so Michael Moshen? Moshen? I think, we've already established I'm bad with names. He actually controlled David Bowie's crystal balls. So he would be underneath. So Bowie would be there acting, performing in front of the camera, and he would just have his hand. So they put Bowie's hand behind his back. And this other guy would just pop his hand out behind Bowie with like the magic crystal balls.
And do sort of the sleight of hand and...
Yeah, he did all like the magic tricks with the balls, like the spinning it around and all of that. They couldn't master it. And also David Bowie did the noises for the baby.
Really? So whenever Toby was like crying?
Yeah, because Toby was scared. Well, from what I understand, from what I've read, what I know is that David Bowie was meant to be, his character Jareth is meant to scare the kid, and they were trying to get the kid to cry, but the kid wouldn't cry. So he had to go.
He was a fan.
He just heard David Bowie's first song, was like, yeah,
this hits.
This is amazing. This guy's gonna do really well when he's older. No, and he wouldn't cry, so Bowie would have to impose do the baby noises, and you can quite clearly tell.
I actually did not tell.
Could you not?
Well, I didn't know this when I was watching it.
Well, now you got to watch it again. And you'll pick up on it. Well, I most certainly did. But then,
speaking of rewatch, how long has it been since you've seen the film last?
Oh, a good couple of years actually.
Yeah, I think it's been like 10 years since I last saw it.
Oh, that's a long time. I would say maybe a year, 2 years for me.
So, is there anything that maybe stood out to you upon rewatch? Like any particular scenes or...
I love when we first see Hoggle, but I love, with the fairies, but I love how Sarah refers to him as Hogwart. And then, which I remember that. And she's like, oh, shut up, Hogwart, or we all know help Hogwart, or something like that. And then later on, I forget that Jareth also refers to him as like Hogwarts, and like warts and all of this, and just like a whole list of names. No one ever remembers this guy's name.
Yeah,
and he's the true hero of the film.
Yeah.
I love him so much. Did you know that his I'm so nerding out here. Did you know that the problem with the puppetry, the problem with, I think, puppetry nowadays is that you have to preserve, if it's using latex, you have to preserve the puppets, preserve the latex so it doesn't melt. And what happened is Hoggle was found a few years ago. I don't know if anyone knows about this. Hoggle was found in like a storage container or something, and his face was just melted.
No!
I saw the photo and I nearly had a mental breakdown.
No.
But,
because you think they'd be strong enough. I know it's been like 40 odd years almost.
Oh, yeah, you'd expect it to definitely perish, but he honestly looked like something out of The Last of Us.
No.
Like one of the clickers.
I don't know if I
coming to
can
get
look
you.
up that image. I feel like it'll be scarring.
I will send it to you later.
Oh.
It is absolutely scarring. It scarred me for life.
Yeah.
I can't look at him the same now. I just see his melted face.
Yeah. Well, I also saw it took like 4 people to operate his puppet.
It did, yeah. Yeah. And I think also, getting on the topic of puppetry dying in the, being a dying art in the industry, I think it's making a comeback. We've got the Labyrinth sequel coming out, which is going to be amazing. The Labyrinth 2, just announced. It's been in the works for a while, though, but it's just been announced. But we did, in 2019, on Netflix, what a horrible company, we,
Oh my God.
please don't cancel me, Netflix, I'd love to work for you.
Selling out already.
I'm a university student, I need a job when I pass my degree, hopefully. They basically did the Dark Crystal television series, which is called Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. It's a prequel series to the film. If you haven't watched the film, I recommend you go watch the film, then watch the prequel series.
Okay.
Oh, watch the prequel series, then watch the film, sorry. There we go. Do it that way round.
Okay.
But it's a TV series, and they used puppets that they did in the Labyrinth, the same sort of style, the way they would operate. But it took 4 people to operate a Skeksis, or Skeksis in the Dark Crystal. And very much with Hoggle in the Labyrinth, it took more than one person to operate these puppets.
All sorts of different kinds of puppets in the Labyrinth. I mean, Hoggle, I believe if I remember correctly, there was one person inside the suit controlling the body of Hoggle, and then 3 different people operating the sort of robotics behind the facial movement.
Yeah, the eyes, the mouth, and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
To make sure he was actually reacting to what Jennifer was saying when she was there.
Which I thought was so fascinating. I was watching the film, trying to figure out how they're operating the puppets and the different characters is so fascinating because a lot of the times you can't really tell. And I feel like that really adds to the magic of it.
I think also you can't tell because you can, well, from my perspective, because I've looked at puppetry, I can quite clearly tell that obviously where the puppeteer is hiding behind a rock,
like a conveniently placed pillar or something.
Yes,
yeah,
you can tell that. But I think with Hoggle, it's very different. You can't tell that. And with the Dark Crystal television series and the film, mainly the television series, they green screened some of the actors out.
Which is interesting because I know they do basically some very early styles of editing in order to hide some of the puppet operators. For example, I think in the, what are they called? The Fireys? The Fireys.
My favorite puppets.
They did some editing there to hide the operators.
Yeah, because they were lifting up the head.
Yeah.
And that would be quite hard to do if you didn't edit them out. But because the Fireys are...
Yeah,
you haven't watched the film,
so they had some
singing,
some techniques there. There was some screen painting, I believe, in some scenes as well.
Yes, there is. Yeah.
Some really cool techniques. And I think it's really fascinating how well some of the effects have held up over time.
Well, especially the CGI owl.
I mean...
I watch it now and it looks like a bit of ropey CGI, but I look at it like this could have been done in the 2000s.
Yeah, like looking at it, it was released in 1986. It is currently 2024.
It's insane. Well,
it's almost 40 years on from it releasing.
Yes. Yep.
Which, when you look at it, though, it doesn't feel...
38.
I said almost.
Yeah, I know, but I had to specify.
Yeah, how do I put this? It doesn't feel dated in terms of the technology. Yeah. You can very clearly tell it's like 80s in terms of the language and,
the
Sarah's house. Yeah. But, the style of visuals, I think definitely.
But also the voiceover, I think, of the characters, you can tell it was done in like a ropey studio, unlike our lovely podcast studio we're in right now.
But I think it's aged quite well in sense of it looks great. I mean, all the time she's in the underground, it just looks like such a beautiful world that they've managed to create. Now, obviously, I can tell there's effects being used because, compared to today, you can spot that there's effects, but you really get drawn in. I don't feel like, except for the scene with the Fireys, which even Jim Henson admitted the editing wasn't up to par.
Yeah.
Everything else feels very smooth. I don't feel like I'm being reminded that it's puppets or anything. You believe in them as characters and the environment as well.
Well, yeah, because when I was younger, when I was watching the film, I always dreamt about being in the actual labyrinth. I just wanted to live there. I wanted to be the Goblin King.
It was so, you're
Goblin
like,
Queen.
Sarah, why'd you leave?
Yeah, don't care about the baby. Leave Toby. No one cares about Toby. My favourite scene when she's looking in the mirror, when she's like, oh, I wish you could just take him away, Goblin King. And she's put like the little hat on, like Toby's little hat. I love that.
I also,
I love the way it's shot as well through the
Yes.
her reflection in the mirror.
I love the entrance of Jareth. By the way, if you haven't seen the film before, it's not.
Well, if you haven't seen the film, why are you listening to the podcast?
But also, please keep listening.
Yes, we do need that. We need listeners.
I will say, I love Jareth's entrance, and if you again, like we just said, if you haven't seen the film before, it's not Jared, it's Jareth, Jareth, because he's from a mystical world, so he's not Jared, he's Jareth. And also, if you have not seen the movie before, right now, Google Jareth from Labyrinth and look at what this man looks like.
Oh, you won't look at his face first.
No,
we know what you'll look at first.
Look at his face first, please. I'm begging you.
I'm not.
But I love his entrance into Sarah's house.
Into her bedroom
Into
through
her
the
bedroom.
window.
Yeah, there's some. I'm going to talk about this in a second. There are some kind of creepy vibes, but we'll get back to that.
Yeah.
This mystical entrance with glitter. He's got this big billowing cape. He transforms from an owl into a sort of fey human form. He's got these fantastic eyebrows. The hair. We'll talk about the hair.
I would kill to have hair like that. And the eyebrows.
I know
that'd be my go-to look every day on campus.
I know it's very dated in terms of the hair and some of the outfits are very 80s inspired, like Sarah's gown later on is very 80s wedding dress decor. But I love the costuming in this movie. It is.
People would eat up the costuming nowadays. They'd love it.
Have you seen some of the cosplays people have done in recent years? Amazing.
I love the Reddit page. Mm-hmm. Okay, I am like a big fan of the Labyrinth Reddit page, and I love seeing people's cosplays on there, but I love seeing all the tattoos people get. Mm-hmm. Labyrinth-inspired tattoos. It's amazing. Ooh. I really want the worm saying, hello.
I love that.
That's my little impression of the worm. Hello.
But I love an interesting point. I think Sarah has 3 outfits throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
Jareth / David Bowie has so many.
He has so many costume changes in that film, but I love it.
I love it, but also, there were some weird things. I was looking this up, right? If you've seen the film, you know what he's dressed like. And apparently they initially, when they were writing this film, they wanted it to be about the story of Sarah's journey from being a child into womanhood. Starting to, have like romance and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. Not with a Goblin King, though.
Yeah, so they decided to give him a giant codpiece for his costume. And they shot this initial scene, sent it to the studio execs, and they said, put that thing away. And so I dread to think what it originally looked like. Because
I don't dread to think that. I'd love to think about that.
Okay. They then downsized it for the other scenes.
Yeah.
According to Jim Henson's son talking about it. And apparently it was described as quite frightening by Henson himself.
the man couldn't even be there on set. He had to get away.
So he really leans into he's I think also he was a great casting choice because he really has this mystical aura.
I also think that we should mention that the film wouldn't hold up today. It wouldn't be sort of like this cult classic if it weren't for Terry Jones helping the project in many ways, but most certainly he did one of the first drafts of the film.
Really?
And I don't know if anyone knows Terry Jones, Monty Python fame. He's an amazing. He's so cool. Was so cool. But yeah, I think if it weren't for him as well and having these big
names
in the film, like David Bowie, Terry Jones, Brian and Randy Froud.
I saw also
Jennifer Connelly.
Henson really wanted to get a famous music star to play the role of Jareth, or at the time the unnamed Goblin King.
But I think they go about it so well. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I think they do go about it so well because nowadays when we watch films, and they're like, we want a big music star. We're gonna get Doja Cat or whoever the hell you're gonna get in the film. And then they just randomly place them there, and they don't fit into the film.
They don't fit the vibe.
They're there for like a product placement kind of. They're there to just sell their songs.
Yeah, I feel like
market the film to a certain audience.
An equivalent, for example.
Yeah.
The recent Mean Girls film, Renee Rapp, I think, is one of the cases of good placement because partially I think because she had experience with the property before in musical theater, but I feel like she fits the vibe.
Well, I think also David Bowie most certainly fits the vibe
I
for
think
this.
he was the best choice. Now, this could be, just in retrospect, it feels like it's been upheld well, but I think it gives the film such a charm in an odd way. And I will say, I really enjoyed rewatching it. There is, I really love the puppets and everything. There were some weird things, though, that I don't know if you picked up on. Like, we were talking about how it was supposed to be about, like, Sarah, like, kind of stepping into womanhood.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of weird scenes with Jareth.
Yes, there is.
Which I don't think I would have noticed that as a kid.
Oh, no, I never noticed that as a kid.
Because I did not remember that, but there's a lot of weird bits where, like, well, for example, the very end, the last thing he says to her, really. What was it? Fear me, love me, and I will be your slave?
Yeah.
And, like, submit to me or something. It was very odd. She says no, and she gets her baby bro back. But I was like, okay, she's a child. They also have a ballroom dancing. I do love the ballroom scene, but it's a bit...
I love it aesthetically.
Aesthetically, I love the costume
Costuming,
design.
amazing.
I don't know what I feel
As
about the
world falls
implications.
down,
The song, amazing. The implications of it are a bit odd.
Yes, why is he trying to dance with her? Why did he give Hoggle that little peach to, like...
Yeah, it was
that's
supposed
a bit creepy that it was to, like, drug her.
Yeah.
But that's just a bit odd because she's, like, what, 16?
I feel like another bit there.
Also, how old is he?
Well, he's a Fae King, so we don't know.
He could be hundreds of years old.
Separate from that, apparently in the original, well, not original, one of the original final drafts, let's say, in the ballroom scene or somewhere else, Jareth was supposed to kiss Sarah. But David Bowie said no because the actress at the time was 14.
Yeah.
So... instead, he was like, I can give her, like, a kiss on the cheek or something if her parents are on set.
Yeah.
Which I haven't gone through his history as a person.
Okay.
But I'm like, I feel like, okay, good. Bare minimum set requirement. I think it's something very... I feel like it was more common back then. I feel like now you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
We're like bringing up that idea in the first place. But I'm glad he sort of stood up for the actress in that way, or...
Yeah. No,
I know it's kind of bare minimum nowadays, but...
Yes. But at the time...
At the time,
the industry weren't a good place.
If that scene had stayed in, I don't know how I would have felt about the film as a whole.
I think it would have definitely changed my opinion on it.
Yeah.
Because it goes away from that fantasy sort of vibe, like kid-friendly, so it becomes a bit, it crosses that line where it starts to become a bit more serious.
Yeah, I feel like then the focus would be on Jareth rather than Sarah. I feel like in the film, Sarah...
Inappropriate, kind of.
Yeah, feeling. I feel like the film that we get is Sarah sort of exploring her issues, her wants, her dreams. If we had that, and also sort of about childhood and, accepting that it's changed.
And also sort of accepting that she's... Like you said, accepting that her childhood, it's changed in that, but also
she can still access it through Toby.
She's now got Toby.
Whereas I think if we had the scene with Jareth and her kissing, or him kissing her, I don't know if it's a mutual thing, because again, it didn't make it into the final script.
Which is good.
I feel like in that case, the focus would be more on Jareth and his like manipulation of her.
Yeah.
Not so much about her journey. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm quite glad it didn't make the cut.
No, that does make sense.
Because I think we get quite a charming film out of it.
Yeah. Well, we got a film that was a flop and is now regarded as a cult classic. Well, to me, it's always my favourite film. That Speed Racer, Night of the Hunter.
Well, I guess I love, like there's so much immaculate... I honestly do watch this film. There's so much immaculate detailing in the puppets and embroidery and the costuming design. You can tell a lot of love went into this film. And something else I want to bring up. India, do you have a favourite puppet in Labyrinth?
The Fireys.
Ooh.
They will always be my favourite.
Why the Fireys?
They're so cool. They can take their heads off and like spin their head around. And like they dance. Like I would love to be a puppet in a magical world in a labyrinth where I'm just dancing 24/7, singing along, taking off parts of my limbs. Like what a fun way to live life. That's what I'm gonna do once I graduate with my film degree. I'm just gonna be a full-time Fiery.
And spin your head around.
Yeah. Yeah, if Labyrinth sequel, Labyrinth 2, if they want anyone to help, just a little, get me on there, please. I'll be a runner. I'll do anything. I will literally be in one of the puppets. I'm small enough. I could literally be Hoggle. Okay. But I also want to just just quickly before we have to wrap this up. My favorite part of the film.
Can I say my favorite puppet first?
Oh yeah. Say your puppet. Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
My actual favorite is Sir Didymus.
Yes.
I love him and his sometimes when a dog that he rides on switches to a puppet as well. He feels very Muppet-esque, and that the way he moves, the way he's operated. I'll have to look up later if he's actually operated by someone who works on the Muppets. But I just loved him.
He probably would be because it's the same.
Yeah.
It's Jim Henson's Creature Workshop.
And my niche favorite, my indie film bro pick is the rock faces on the hallway on the way from the oubliette.
Yeah.
I love them.
And the hands in the seat when she falls. I love how she goes, see, it was so correct. See, I knew what I was doing. I knew I picked the wrong door and then just falls.
She's a very teenage girl.
Falls to her death. She's so mean.
She's just a girl.
I love her.
Yeah, so that's my favorite puppets.
But yeah, I love it when Sarah's sort of getting the, she's sort of saying like, oh, Goblin King, take Toby away, blah, blah, just take him away, I can't do this anymore. And then the goblins go, she did that wrong. It didn't even start with I wish. Or I think I've got the exact quote here, which is, where'd she learn that rubbish from? It doesn't even start with I wish. But that's not my favourite quote.
Oh, what's your favourite quote?
My favourite quote is, let me just get it up. If she had kept on going that way, she would have gone straight to that castle, which is from The Little Worm. Hello.
She doesn't even stop for tea. I was very disappointed he didn't come back.
Also, I was disappointed she didn't accept the offer
on
having
tea
a cup
with
of
him.
tea. Yeah. He looks lovely. He's a lovely little chap.
Lovely chap.
Lovely little old chap. I would have gone, honestly, okay, let me go get the baby. I'll come back and have a cup of tea with you.
Yeah.
And then I'll go home.
Yeah.
And Jareth, he can just put up with that.
Yeah, Jareth can wait.
He's been getting me go around that labyrinth for ages.
Yeah.
He's manipulating time.
Yeah, manipulate time for me to meet people,
Make new friends.
I think my favorite line is from Jareth, and this is when he bumps into Sarah and Hoggle, when Hoggle is bringing her through underground passageways to try and get her closer to the castle. And they meet this mysterious figure in the hallway who's like, ooh, what you got with you, Hoggle? This sort of old crone.
Yeah.
And Hoggle goes,
one of the best
nothing. And then it goes, nothing, tra-la-la. And that's him transforming into Jareth as he stands up. And just the way he delivers the phrase tra-la-la in the most angry way. Tra-la-la. That was my favorite line.
That is also one of the best parts of the film, I think, when you see that transformation from the puppet to Jareth. Yeah. Now, I don't know. I'm not... Okay, maybe I should have done my research on this part, but I don't know if that was an actual puppet or him. I think that was the use of both. I
think it's a cape on top of him, and
then they had a part, like an element of like a puppet sort of face.
Yeah.
And then he whipped it off and went, "Ooh,
yeah,
I'm actually Jareth, and I've come to get you." So should we get into our favorite Letterboxd reviews?
All right. Do you have any final comments about the film before we get to our Letterboxd review and our final recap? Is there anything else you want to say about the film?
There probably is, and I've forgotten. But look, I love the film. It'll always be one of my favorites. I love just sitting and just having a little movie night and watching The Labyrinth or Dark Crystal. Always one of my favorites. I most certainly think that puppetry, it is a dying art in the industry, and it needs to come. And we didn't really talk about this much in the podcast, but maybe we'll mention it again in another podcast.
If we do Dark Crystal, maybe.
Yeah, we could talk. We could talk about the Dark Crystal. Age of Resistance, that was a big flop, the TV series, but. Yeah, definitely. Puppetry is really making a comeback. I mean, look at the Muppets now. They've literally done the Haunted Mansion Muppets, and there's always Muppets Take Manhattan, the Muppets with the Oz, the Muppets Go to the Moon or whatever the hell it is. There's so many different Muppets movies, but the Muppets, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. But The Labyrinth and the Dark Crystal does something different. It goes above and beyond with puppetry and implementing the use of actors and incorporating actors with puppets. And I know it was quite hard for the actors to interact with the puppets in The Labyrinth, especially with Bowie.
Yeah, and for context, in the film, Sarah and Jareth are the only humans.
Yes, I don't think we mentioned that.
In the entire film, within the underground. Everything else is a puppet.
Yeah, and it is amazing. It's an amazing film. I highly recommend it. I really want to work in puppetry, if you couldn't tell. I've tried not to nerd out on this.
Do you think there's a reason why puppetry, like you said, might be coming back into fashion now?
Because it is so different, unusual, and I think people are getting bored of the same old sort of films that are being made. This is so different. Puppetry offers a different way to explore creativity and kind of. I think if I was a director and I was using puppetry, I would gear it towards younger kids. But also, actually, funny enough, my group for our contemporary film module, we're actually doing a puppet film, a puppet show, which one of our lecturers was like, "Oh, that's different." I was like, "No, this is awesome." But yeah, I definitely think being a director, puppetry gives you more creative freedom. Maybe you can do a lot more with it. Sky's the limit. I think. Well, not really, but
yeah, I mean,
it is now. It's becoming.
Would you say that the love for puppetry comes out of nostalgia or for love for the art?
I think for me, nostalgia, but I do also, maybe it does come from, no, it does. It does come from a love of the art of puppetry. My dad has a few little puppets in there, and puppets do also scare me a little bit. But if you've watched Dark Crystal and you've seen the Skeksis, then you know they are terrifying. They scare me. I still have nightmares about them. That and clickers. I haven't got over The Last of Us. But I just love it so much. But
would you also say then, this is kind of the last question about like industry-related stuff. Would you say that if we see now contemporary films returning to using puppetry, would you say that is out of, sort of the CGI fatigue of, big blockbusters like Marvel, DC movies, or is it out of a desire for innovation? Is there a difference between the two?
Desire for innovation, definitely. I don't know. I can't speak for everyone, but for one, I'm getting bored of the same old Marvel movies coming out, and we touched on that in the last episode. I'm getting bored of CGI, the overusing CGI when it's not necessary. You don't need to use it. The practical effects are getting less and less in films. Oh, they kind of are and they aren't, but I see CGI taking over. And I also don't like the fact that AI is slowly taking over our lives and it's the end of the world. But AI, I do not like AI. But I definitely think puppetry is more... Is it organic, the word?
Does it feel maybe like you can tell that someone's actually put, it's like a labor of love. I'm not saying that people working on CGI don't do that. Yeah. But do you feel like maybe it's more obvious to an audience that it's something that a person has crafted?
Yes. I also think if you're watching the film... you're watching The Labyrinth. I know a lot of hard work went into that film, making those puppets. Even keeping the puppets restored. Ludo, who we haven't spoke about yet, who is my favourite. Ludo is actually in Milton Keynes Cinema Museum.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I really want to go see him. Have a little selfie, get a Polaroid with that man. Oh, that creature, that puppet. But yeah, Ludo is awesome. Ludo's probably like 5 times taller than me, but I am a little midget, so...
Well, I'm sorry. That's the end of me interrogating you about puppets. I just know you know a lot about it. I wanted to hear your thoughts about industry related.
I do. I feel I'm really trying not to nerd out.
Well, this is a space for that.
I know. When we do Dark Crystal, I'll definitely nerd out on that.
Yeah. This will be me for another... Last time was a rant sesh for me.
Oh, Jess I loved that episode.
Yeah. I still need an ep to nerd out about something. I'll decide that later. But... I guess to wrap up talking about The Labyrinth.
Letterboxd reviews.
What's your favorite Letterboxd review that you've picked out?
Okay, my Letterboxd review is 4 stars and it's watched by Colin the Dude on the 11th of January 2016. By the way, I love this guy and I do literally like everything he reviews on Letterboxd. I'm not a fan. No, I am a fan. I'm just I'm not a crazy fan. And his review is David Bowie tossing toddlers while singing the magic of dance with a goblin puppet choir. It's one of the life's greatest pleasures.
Nice.
I love that. It is. I wake up every morning and I do listen to the Labyrinth soundtrack while I'm getting ready.
Right.
What about you, Jess?
The one I chose was a 3.5-star review, which I don't know if I
already
agree
don't
with.
like it. Already don't like it.
Hold
5
on.
stars all the way.
It's by Aaliyah on 10th of May of 2021. Camp in the sense that this film really did not need to exist. Now, I've also just realized, reading this out, I read this as a positive review, as in camp as in it didn't need to exist, but it does. Isn't that brilliant? But now I realize they might have been saying camp in the sense that it shouldn't.
Yeah,
there was
Jess,
no need.
Why did you pick this one out?
I prefer my interpretation. I think this film, it truly is a definition of camp.
Yeah, no, it is.
Look at Jareth.
I know.
Just look at him for like a second. Maybe not too long.
Not too long, your eyes will start wandering.
It's very... Okay, speak for yourself. I think it's very Cam. And it didn't need to exist, and it almost didn't at several stages, but they pulled through. They got a script together that they agreed on, worked on. And,
well, the sequel has been through so many. The sequel they're making now, it's been,
well, it's
on and off. It's been so annoying, just like the original film was.
Well, I mean, for decades, right? It's been sort of thought about, but
it's like that and the Tron rebooting the Tron trilogy.
Ooh, I don't know how I feel about that.
I love Tron. That's going through the same thing as well.
Right. Well, I guess to recap this film, The Labyrinth.
Yeah.
2 questions, like we'll end with every time.
Yeah.
So number 1, is The Labyrinth a bad film?
No. It's a masterpiece. It's spectacular, and it should be taught in every university on at least one module for film studies. Thank you.
I agree that I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's a really interesting, piece of film history as well. There's so many well-known creators who've touched on it.
It was a real turning point in film, I have to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we had Dark Crystal that used puppets, like we said in 82, but The Labyrinth really brought in that possibility that you could have actors interacting with other characters that weren't puppets. That weren't actors. So you could have actors interacting with puppets, and it would still work well. It would still flow. The narrative would work. The film would still make sense, and people would still love it eventually in time.
Yeah.
And it just showed how creative you could be. I mean, I watched that film and I go, "This is so cool! Like, I've written a script. I should totally have like a puppet in this episode I've written for this show, and all this kind of stuff."
Yeah. Well, also another thing to mention, George Lucas worked on this film as
well.
He did,
yeah.
Like, you've got some really big names, who...
He did the first... So he helped with the first draft with Trevor Jones.
Yeah. And he also helped with editing.
Yeah. That guy was lovely. I mean, I've never met him, so I don't know why I said it like I've met him.
I agree. I don't think it's a bad film, but I feel like it has been put down in history as a bad film, which is why we chose it for today, because I feel like when people hear Labyrinth, they think, oh, yes, that kind of trashy... bad film.
80s,
like I feel like
the one with the puppets.
Yeah, I feel like it's gotten a bad reputation.
Yeah, but then I also think you listen to a lot of coming here to uni. A lot of people I know have watched Labyrinth and love Labyrinth.
But also, I don't know if we represent the general population.
No, we don't.
And
we would have grown up watching it in like 2000s, early 2000s, maybe not you.
Yeah. Well, I guess number 2, and I already know your answer to this question. Second question: would you rewatch Labyrinth?
No. No, I'm joking. I would.
The streak ends today.
Yeah, from now on, I hate The Labyrinth. I never want to talk about it again. I hate this podcast. I want to go home. No,
wow, 2 episodes is all it took to break you.
It's all I need for my CV. No,
please, we're
I'm
continuing.
Only here for the CV. Goodbye, guys. This is the last episode ever.
No, please, no. I'm staying on for a few more at least.
Goodbye to our 12 followers. No.
No, we got more than that.
We do. We have 24.
By the way, if you didn't know, actually, I'm going to answer the question first. I would rewatch this movie. I think having not seen it for 10 years actually made it more enjoyable for me, because it was almost like I was watching it for the first time. But I think now, knowing some of these behind the scenes facts that India's told me, I'm going to enjoy watching it again, kind of looking for those little details.
Yeah, you're going to start picking up on the really ropey voiceover of the character and that.
Right, well, that's it for our discussion on Labyrinth. Thank you, India, for sort of giving me this information. I really enjoyed that info dump, as it were. Because a lot of stuff I didn't know about the production.
There is still loads I haven't said, but we don't have time for
that. So maybe we'll do part 2 sometime, but there's a lot of other films to get to. Yeah. Speaking of which, next time, what are we going to be talking about?
We're going to be talking about Taylor Swift, but most importantly, we're going to be looking at Miss Americana.
Ooh.
Which is the documentary. How do you think then? Yes,
yeah, and why Miss Americana?
Because, well... Taylor Swift, there's already a lot of...
She's very topical right now, but out of her other concert films.
Miss Americana, Miss Americana documentary, but yeah, over that and is it Reputation? Mm-hmm. Is it Reputation, the other one?
Reputation,
I'm not a big Taylor Swift fan, so this next episode will be quite interesting for me, or it'll be very boring. But Miss Americana got a 7.4. It didn't out of 10 on IMDb. It didn't get too good reviews. But Reputation got better reviews.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's our topic for next week or next time. So check in with us then. For any updates in between, I mean, you can always follow us on wherever you're listening to the podcast right now. But we've also got an Instagram, if you didn't know. It's at Cine-Mess Podcast. We'll link it in our Spotify as well. And you can look there to see our announcement about new topics, see when episodes are being released. And if you want to send us a suggestion, you can always DM us on there. If there's any really bad movie that you're really passionate about that you want us to rant about, or if you want to rant about it, let us know. We'll see what we can do. We're definitely workshopping some episode ideas right now.
Yeah. I really want to look at Larmageddon and Velocipasta, but they are some of my favourite films. So
yeah, and I am at some point going to force India to listen to me rant about Pitch Perfect.
Oh, Jess, please. I'll do anything.
Such a cultural touchstone. I don't think it's a bad film.
I've never watched it. I know I need to watch Pitch Perfect.
I thought you've watched.
No, I've never watched Pitch Perfect.
We'll get back to. Okay, we're definitely doing that episode now. But for now, we've been the Cine-Mess podcast, embracing bad cinema. I'm Jess.
I'm India.
And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Bye.